Welcome to Fashion And with me, Scott Schiavone, Fashion Curator. Just a reminder that you can keep up to date with everything Fashion And by following @FashionAnd with Scott Schiavone on Instagram, and of course by hitting that subscribe button. For this week, we'll be exploring the dark but beautiful life and work of one of the most iconic fashion designers of the late 20th and early 21st century. This is Fashion and McQueen. Alexander McQueen was one of the most celebrated fashion designers of his generation, known for his highly original designs that combined pure artistry with exceptional technical ability. For McQueen, fashion was a vehicle to convey or express complex ideas and concepts. He challenged and pushed the boundaries of fashion beyond just clothing and into a conceptual expression of culture, politics, and identity. McQueen's work was admired for its highly original blend of subversion and tradition. He was more than just a fashion designer. He was a performance artist whose chosen medium of expression was fashion. His success was not only measured in the enduring legacy of his designs, but also in the many accolades he achieved during his career, including the title of British Designer of the Year 4 times between 1996 and 2001, International Designer of the Year by the Council of Fashion Designers of America, and he received a CBE for his services to the British fashion industry. In this episode, we'll be exploring fashion and McQueen through 4 themes: Becoming McQueen, Tailor to Couturier, Distinctly McQueen, Spectacular McQueen, and Long Live McQueen. Born Lee Alexander McQueen on the 17th of March 1969 in Lewisham, London, he was the youngest of 6 children. His father Ronald, of Scottish descent, drove a black cab whilst his mother Joyce was a stay-at-home mum until Lee was 16. Lee attended Rokeby School, a local all-boys comprehensive in Canning Town. In 1985, he left school at the age of 16 with just one qualification, an O-level in art. His mum Joyce saw an advert for apprenticeships on Savile Row and urged the young Lee to apply. He was successful and began a 2-year apprenticeship with tailors Anderson and Shepherd. Lee became highly accomplished very quickly and learned to make a forward, the term for a jacket before its sleeves, back lining, top collar, buttonholes and finishing stitches have been completed, a year earlier than expected. His attention soon waned though, and he left Anderson and Shepherd for Jeeves and Hawkes, where he learnt the art of military tailoring. Lasting only a year, he quit on his 20th birthday and then subsequently spent a short time at London costumier Angels, where he learnt the cut and construction of historical dress. Lee left London for Milan in 1989, where he was assistant to Romeo Gigli, an Italian fashion designer who was described in the late 1980s as single-handedly changing the course of fashion. 12 months later, on his return to the UK, Lee submitted his portfolio to Central St Martin's School of Art and Design in the hope of gaining a position as a pattern cutting teacher. Bobby Hilson, founder of the MA Fashion course and teacher to John Galliano, was so impressed with his portfolio that she offered him a place on the MA Fashion course. In 1992, Lee received his master's degree in fashion design, and his entire graduation collection, entitled Jack the Ripper Stalks His Victims, was bought by influential fashion stylist Isabella Blow. Blow acted as his publicist and was the one who persuaded Lee to become known as Alexander, his middle name, thus launching the career of Alexander McQueen. McQueen's following collection for autumn-winter 1993, entitled Taxi Driver, was no big affair and was shown on a single rail at the Ritz Hotel in London. This was where he introduced his famous bumster trouser, a style that would become a McQueen signature. His autumn-winter 1995 collection Highland Rape was the show that sent McQueen's star into the stratosphere. The collection's drama and power was shocking at a time when 90s minimalism reigned supreme. channeling his Scottish roots, like myself. Models clad in the McQueen tartan walked the catwalk dishevelled and spattered in blood, their clothes torn and their bodies semi-naked. The use of the word rape concerned critics, branding McQueen another male homosexual designer who was exploiting and degrading women through depictions of rape. Setting the record straight, McQueen said, "My father's family originates from the Isle of Skye, and I'd studied the history of the Scottish upheavals and the clearances. People were so unintelligent they thought that this was about women being raped, yet Highland rape was about England's rape of Scotland." Despite, or perhaps because of the controversy, by 1996 McQueen had caught the attention of Bernard Arnault, CEO of LVMH. On the 14th of October 1996, LVMH appointed Alexander McQueen as the chief designer of Parisian haute couture house Givenchy. Strangely, McQueen's already established reputation as the king of the macabre was not very much in tune with Givenchy's reputation for femininity and affluent refinement. McQueen accepted the position despite not being granted complete creative control, as it gave him the opportunity to try his hand at couture, saying, "Couture is beyond beyond. It is where the dreams of your life in fashion become reality." During his tenure at Givenchy from 1996 to 2001, McQueen produced 2 couture and 2 ready-to-wear collections annually. McQueen said, "Working in the atelier at Givenchy was fundamental to my career. Because I was a tailor, I didn't totally understand softness or lightness. I learned lightness at Givenchy. I was a tailor at Savile Row. At Givenchy I learned to soften. For me, it was an education. Working at Givenchy helped me learn my craft." McQueen's style for Givenchy was met with mixed reviews, and his maverick nature, reckless extravagance and discord caused the company much concern. After LVMH rival Gucci Group, now Kering, purchased 51% of his namesake brand, McQueen was released from his contract with Givenchy and he returned to London. Death and life, love and beauty, dark and light, tradition and transgression were all interwoven elements in the creation of McQueen's most breathtaking and original designs. McQueen trained as a tailor on London's Savile Row at Anderson and Shepherd. His training gave him the confidence and technical ability to cut cloth quickly and accurately, and at the heart of every design was the clear understanding of the structured, tailored garment. McQueen said, "You've got to know the rules to break them. That's what I'm here for, to demolish the rules but to keep the tradition." Through tailoring, McQueen experimented with the body and its proportions, resulting in garments such as the torso-extending bumster trousers and his signature jackets with exaggerated shoulders and nipped waists. His background in tailoring, combined with dressmaking and draping techniques learned at Givenchy, paved the way for his innovative experiments with cutting and construction. When McQueen was once asked what his Scottish roots meant to him, he responded, "Everything. Good boy." His acute sense of national pride was most evident in his autumn-winter 2006 Widows of Culloden collection, which was inspired by the final battle of the Jacobite Rising in 1745 and its aftermath. The collection was melancholic and again featured the McQueen tartan, lace and exaggerated silhouettes inspired by Victorian fashion. The collection was viewed by McQueen himself as a cathartic conclusion to his earlier Highland Rape collection. McQueen's English ancestry also inspired his work. His autumn-winter 2008 collection, The Girl Who Lived in the Tree, was influenced by a grand elm tree situated in the garden of McQueen's country home in East Sussex. There's something kind of Edgar Allan Poe, kind of deep and kind of melancholic about my collections. McQueen was particularly inspired by the 19th century and by elements of Victorian Gothic such as horror and romance. His collections often reflected paradoxical relationships such as life and death, lightness and darkness, melancholy and beauty, saying of himself, "I'm a romantic schizophrenic." The designer's romantic sensibility fueled his creativity. His profound appreciation of beauty worked in harmony with his dark imagination, calling forth an uneasy pleasure that merged wonder and terror. Nature was one of the greatest and most enduring influences upon McQueen. He said, "I have always loved the mechanics of nature, and to a greater or lesser extent, my work is always informed by that." Using raw materials from the natural world, the designer often created fashions that were metamorphic and transformed the wearer into an otherworldly creature. In his Spring-Summer 2001 collection entitled Voss, McQueen designed a dress encrusted with razor clamshells, and Spring-Summer 2007 Saraband collection incorporated both silk and real flowers that withered and fell to the catwalk. Inspired by Charles Darwin's On the Origin of the Species, McQueen's Spring-Summer 2010 collection, PLATO'S Atlantis, featured digitally engineered prints inspired by sea creatures and reptiles. In this collection, McQueen tailored garments to mimic marine features. Fluted skirts resembled jellyfish, and puff sleeves were pleated to resemble gills. Ensembles were accessorised with McQueen's iconic armadillo shoes, which were shaped without any apparent reference to the natural form of the foot and resembled the hard shell of the animal after which the shoe was named. Nowhere was McQueen's vision so eloquently communicated than through his fashion shows. "It's my 30 minutes to do whatever I want." Drawing inspiration from performance art, cinema, theatre and dance, his shows were ephemeral moments in time and space. McQueen's 13th collection, entitled Number 13, featured clothes constructed from wood, leather, lace and raffia, and was inspired by the late Victorian arts and crafts movement. Despite the understated appearance of the unvarnished wood runway, there was no shortage of spectacle. The finale of the show was one of the most iconic fashion moments of the 20th century. Between two industrial robotic arms, model Shalom Harlow stood centre stage on a revolving platform. At first, the relationship between model and robot was genteel and inquisitive, but soon turned aggressive as the robots began to spray black and fluorescent yellow paint onto the model's white trapeze-shaped dress, a stunning visual spectacle captured in a moment in time. McQueen's Voss collection is perhaps one of his most iconic and celebrated shows. Disconnecting the audience, McQueen encased his models in an enormous clinical glass box constructed of one-way mirrors, meaning that only the audience could see the models. Undertones of clinical madness and incarceration were echoed throughout the show as the models wore bandaged headpieces, and the collection featured garments constructed from razor clamshells, ostrich feathers and microscopic slides hand-painted red to convey the blood beneath the skin. The finale was the most extravagant of any McQueen show and was a reconstruction of John Peter Whitkin's 1983 work entitled Sanitarium. As the pulsing heartbeat soundtrack gave way to a flatline monotone, the walls of the central glass box fell and shattered to reveal the reclining, naked and voluptuous figure of fetish writer Michelle Olay, masked with a breathing tube and surrounded by moths. McQueen's Widows of Culloden collection was a return to theatricality for the designer. The show was a memorial to the women who lost their husbands in the bloody conflict of Culloden and provided a softer, more emotional approach in response to his earlier Highland Drake collection. The melancholic nature of the collection was enhanced as model Kate Moss appeared as an ethereal apparition from within a glass pyramid, dressed in a light, floating, ghost-like chiffon dress to John Williams' haunting soundtrack from Schindler's List. The illusion was based on the 19th century stage mechanics and principles of Pepper's Ghost, a technique used in Victorian theatre. McQueen's final complete collection and runway show was hailed as one of his finest. Plato's Atlantis imagined a flooded world where life on Earth had evolved to live beneath the water level. 2 cameras on giant robotic arms moved along the catwalk, projecting images of McQueen's underwater sirens onto a video backdrop. Fashion photographer and filmmaker Nick Knight produced a video which featured model Raquel Zimmerman writhing in sand and covered in snakes that blanketed the catwalk. This show was groundbreaking. For the first time in fashion history, the show was streamed live over the internet to a global audience, enabling a dialogue between fashion and technology. McQueen said, "There is no way back for me now. I am going to take you on journeys you've never dreamed were possible." On the 2nd of February 2010, McQueen's beloved mother Joyce died. Over a week later, inconsolable and consumed by his grief, Lee Alexander McQueen took his own life. He was 40 years old. His final and incomplete collection, posthumously entitled Angels and Demons, was completed by his assistant Sarah Burton alongside the designer's creative team. Out of respect, the collection was shown not on a runway but within the delicate interiors of an 18th century Parisian hotel in front of small groups of 10 people. Incorporating images from old masters such as Hieronymus Bosch and Hugo van der Goes, entire paintings were digitally printed and woven into jacquards and embroidered and engineered to fit individual garments. The image of feathered angels representative of religion and the afterlife conveyed a poignancy that was both beautiful and deeply moving. Since his death, the legacy of McQueen has been continued by Sarah Burton, who has taken the brand from strength to strength. In 2011, Burton designed the Duchess of Cambridge's lace wedding dress, once again propelling Alexander McQueen's name into the world's gaze. In the same year, Alexander McQueen's Savage Beauty at the Met's Costume Institute celebrated the late designer's extraordinary contribution to fashion and was at the time one of the most visited exhibitions in the museum's history. In 2015, the exhibition opened at the V&A in London and attracted 493,043 visitors within its 21-week run, making it the V&A's most visited exhibition ever. Burton has remained true to the codes and identity of the house, but has infused it with her own identity, traditions, and strong sense of femininity. A worthy successor in every respect. Alexander McQueen used fashion as a way to challenge the boundaries of what we think of as the requisites or fundamentals of clothing. McQueen's aesthetic, which was both idiosyncratic and iconoclastic, fashioned himself as one of the most celebrated fashion designers of his generation. His highly original designs combined pure artistry with exceptional technical ability and were admired for their blend of subversion and tradition, horror and romance. Inspired by performance art and theatre, the McQueen fashion show was a vehicle to convey or express complex ideas and concepts, challenging and pushing the boundaries of fashion. McQueen was more than just a fashion designer. He was a visionary, a genius. Long live McQueen. Well, that's it for the gorgeously romantic and macabre world of fashion and McQueen. I'll see you next week, but before you go, don't forget to subscribe to Fashion And with me, Scott Schiavone, Fashion Curator.